this is the week you want to call in, because this is about traveling. Now, a lot of times y'all go out and y'all pick a place, and you go to the beach, you don't know how many shops it is, where can you buy alcohol, where can you do this, but you don't think about taking your dollar and spreading it back into your own community. And our guest today, Marty Lewis from ABC Travel Green Book, and now the ABC Travel Green Book app, also host of her own documentary on Nat Geo about Black travel in America, is joining us, and she's got answers that I don't necessarily have. But we brought her back, Simone brought her back, so we can get your questions answered. So call us now, 404-726-1380. So Marty, before we go further into this new app that you released and talk more about your book, for the people who weren't here a few years ago when you were on, tell us about the Green Book, ABC Green Book. How did that come about, and how did you get started on that?
Yeah, so the ABC Travel Green Book is basically an ode to Victor and Alma D. Green, who created the Negro Motorist Green Book. And if you don't know what the Negro Motorist Green Book is, that was a book that was in publication between 1936 and 1966, specifically for African Americans who were in their automobiles traveling up and down Route 66. The Green Book is what helped them stay alive, helped them stay safe, because you got to think about it. This is in the times of Jim Crow, this is in times of extreme racism, in times of sundown towns. And the Green Book was basically a guide that helped them know where they could stop for service stations, what hotels they could sleep in, what restaurants would serve Black people. So now fast forward, to 60, 70 years later, and as Black travelers, we still need a resource to help us to, one, feel safe, but understand where other Black-owned businesses are, no matter where in the world they are. So taking, a page out of Victor and Alma D. Green's book, I created the ABC Travel Green Book. So instead of it just being across America, it's across 6 out of the 7 continents, because nobody lives in Antarctica, but everywhere else you go in this world, you can find Black people. So I want you to know where you can get your nails done. I want you to know where that African restaurant is. I want you to know where the beauty supply is. I want you to know where the Black History Tour in Lisbon, Portugal is. So that's how I came up with the ABC Travel Green Book. And ABC stands for All Black Content. So that's what it is.
You know what? I did not know that from the last time, so I'm glad you brought it up. And so Simone and I were going over your app, looking through it, because I have to lean on my producer, Simone, to help me through technology sometimes, even though I try to adapt. I'm getting a little bit older. But she pointed out to me, I saw hotels on there. I learned today that people could buy franchises to like a Marriott. I didn't know there were Black-owned Marriotts. And when I saw these hotels listed, like, my God, all the times I've gone to Florida, and we'll talk about that, I really wish I had known, because I'd have stayed in those hotels. How did you tell us about that?
So there's actually a young lady, her name is Devon Reeves, and what she's doing is teaching Black people how to franchise a hotel. Because what happens is some hotels go out of business, so you still have this structure there, and somebody can come in and take it over. And her whole thing is they want Black people to be hotel owners. So it doesn't matter if you're going in with 30 other people, it doesn't matter if it's you by yourself, but she wants to make sure that you do that. There's also another research called NABHOOD, and that will tell you where all the Black-owned hotels are in America. You can figure that out. But with the entrance of so many hotels and just tourism booming, right? Black people have guest houses, they have B&Bs, they have hotels, they have motels. So the ABC Travel Green Book and app is like paying homage to that, because a lot of them are smaller. A lot of them don't have the same platforms that, bigger hotels might have, but we want to make sure we still amplify them. So for example, right now I'm in Toronto. There's a Black-owned hotel up here. It's called Old Toronto. And I want to make sure people understand, like, this is a family-run-owned business. No, they don't compete with the Ritz-Carltons or Olive Bonvoy, but they are here and they want Black people to come. So this resource is extremely important, so we understand how to support each other.
So you're going to help my dad and I either extend our debate, or you're going to solve it for me. One of the things that he and I argue, well, we don't argue, but we debate about a lot, is desegregation and integration. And I argue a lot that I think a lot of what hurt small Black-owned businesses in the Black community was us integrating and attempting to be more like and I'm doing my air quotes, the oppressor. This seemed like a tool. Did you have those same thoughts, and did that kind of help drive you on this app and this book?
Absolutely, because as a person who is so in love with Black travel history, right? We're talking, Chicken Bone Beach. We're talking Rosewood. We're talking all of the Lincoln ski lodge. We're talking all of these places that used to be thriving, right, back in the day, because these are only places we could go. But these are the places that were preserving our history. These were the places at any given time you could go and you could, see famous Black musicians. You could see famous Black actors and actresses, because these were the places that cultivated these stories. These were the places, where you could go, you could see them, you could talk to them, you could reach them. They would perform. They had to sleep in these places. So even when you watch the documentary, there's a place called Five Points in Denver. And this was the place, like the Mecca of Black owned Denver. And because people couldn't stay in downtown Denver after they performed, they would have to come back to Five Points. So you think about it, like if you was walking down the street back then, it was booming, right? It was Black excellence up and down, dripping, right? And now you go to those places and we're so spread out. So I'm sorry to your father, but I agree with you, right? I'm like, was segregation all that good for us? Because like you're saying, what it did now is it made our Black businesses almost deflate, because yes, now we could go into here and now we could go into there. And because we had something to prove, as in we could afford this just like you, or we can vacation just like you, once you start integrating, you're taken away now from those spaces that were created for us, by us. So it did tug on me, because I'm like, nah, now we got to get back to it, because even still today, we still go through all of the racism. We still go through all the prejudices, even being Black people in a place. I'm right now in Toronto, I'm at a Ritz-Carlton. Oh, what are you doing here? Well, why can't I just be staying here? Like, do you have to know that, I'm here for this reason? But why can't I just be staying here as a Black person? Do you think I can't afford it? So it's one of those things that are happening. Now, when I was at Old yesterday, nobody said anything to me. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to Old Hotel. You see what I'm saying? So Those are some of the things that we still go through. And, it preserved us. It gave us something to look forward to, our Black owned beaches, all of that, like all that stuff is extremely important.
If you're just tuning in, this is Marty Lewis, ABC Travel Green Book, the book and the app. We're talking about Black travel. You brought up a really good point. We're going to have to go take a commercial break in a few minutes, and we got a caller who we're going to get on wants to have a question or a dialogue with you. Okay. But you brought up a really good point. My cousin, her grandmother, is getting older. She willed property that she has in Martha's Vineyard to my cousin and her mom. This is a house not far from the Inkwell, and they have spent a ton of money gutting this house down to the bones and putting it back together, putting it on some of these sites to rent it out. But one of the things they pointed out to me, because we're planning to trip up, they're gonna let everybody in the family go and use the house so we can see it and be a part of it. But one of the things they pointed out, they were there this summer, was they said that Inkwell, there's a little bitty sign, and that everything about Inkwell is pretty much gone. So if you didn't know and you weren't looking for it, you wouldn't know that it was there. So I think what you're doing with the resources that you're giving us, it's going to shine a light on this, and it's going to give us reason to go looking for it, asking more about it. And like they pointed out, in Martha's Vineyard, there were a lot of Black-owned businesses from locals who've been there forever. And there's like, you got to go, you got to do it. So I'm going to be using the ABC Travel Green Book app when I go to see if I can line up so many places they told me about with the places that we'll find on the app. So when we come back from the break, Marty, we're going to have more from you about that, about these places, these Black businesses that are drying up because of the integration and the desegregation, but in ways that we can then help to put more money back into the Black community. So don't go away, people. Todd, I see you out there. Anybody else, if you want to talk to Marty Lewis, you here. Right now she's in Toronto. She's traveling the world, paving the way for all of us to go and experience these great cities and these great countries. So call us 404-726-1380. We'll have more with Marty after the break. It's the AutoNsiders News and Talk 1380 WAOK. We're talking to the author of the ABC Travel Green Book and now the creator of the ABC Green Book Travel app for your phone. So you don't have to take that book along with you anymore. Now you can just take the phone and you can find all these great places to figure out how you can go share the love, break bread, and spend money with people that look like you. Keep our dollar circulating in the Black community. Before we go back to Marty, though, Marty, I think we got a Todd on hold, and then my dad is called. He's going to challenge us as well. So let's go to the phone line. Let's get Todd first. Good morning, Todd. You're on with Marty Lewis from the ABC Travel Green Book.
Hey, good morning, Jill. a black girl from Oakland named Martinique. Were you named after the island? Is that what sparked it for you to travel, bud?
One parent says yes, one parent says no. So we'll go with the story of yes.
Okay. So as you were talking about people being at their destination in black-owned businesses, does your app? I haven't looked at it yet, so that's why I don't know. Does your app give information about black-owned travel services, including private jet companies? And then I have another question.
So the thing about the app is if you are listed, right? If you have a physical address, then you can be added to the app, because remember, it's all by searching a map also. So it's by where you say you are. So if the private jet company has an actual address, then yes, it could be added to the app. But as of right now, I know I don't have any private jet companies in the app. There are over 40,000 listings. And so certain people who are like travel agents, they're like, oh, how can I list myself in that? I'm like, do you have a physical address? And they're like, yes. I'm like, okay, then we can add you in there. But for the most part, it's actual businesses that you can walk into. However, if you are some type of black-owned business and you have an address, you can be added as well.
Does it also give information about some of these black-owned businesses that may be welcoming and actually looking for investors, so that people go to establishments frequently and don't even know that there's money to be made there, other than just the money that you give to them for their services. But they're not gonna talk to you about that while you're there, because you're there to be served. But a lot of these companies worldwide, not just black, are welcoming investors, and some of them are publicly traded. Does your app give information about that?
No, because it's strictly travel. So it's helping you locate these black-owned businesses. It's not necessarily, and you can also invest as well. However, I think that would be a great idea for an app for somebody to create it and say all these black-owned businesses who have an opportunity for somebody to invest in. I think that would be great also.
What's the of the locate? Now this is separate from your app. You're a traveler, so I'm curious. Of the locations that you've been to in your life, never mind the businesses, just the cities, counties, nations, states, those types of things. What's been the place where you feel like you got the best education about where you were?
Ooh, I would say Amsterdam, because there's a huge black population there and people didn't realize that. So there's a young lady named Jennifer Tosh who does Black Heritage Tours in Amsterdam. And what she did is she uncovered the Black history of Amsterdam, because if you can imagine, they told them there's no Black history. However, we know that the Dutch colonized a lot of people, specifically Guyanese people, Arubans, and Suriname, people from Suriname. So when you walking around the streets of Amsterdam, there's all these Black people, and you're like, where are you coming from? But not only that, what she discovered is that one way that people showed their property or their wealth was by putting their slaves on their property. So you are walking through the very popular red light district, and all you have to do is look up and you see these bustles of Black people. And how do you know they're Black? Because they look like us. They're Black features. Well, why did they have that there? Because that's the way you showed your wealth, by saying we have slaves. So, you have a place like Amsterdam that people go to all the time. You're walking up and down the red light district. You're thinking it's one thing and it's another thing. You're uncovering all these pieces to the puzzle. And we know that Black people are somewhere everywhere, because you can look at old paintings, right, where you see all of these things that happen, and there's Black people in the paintings. So for them to say there was no Black history, and then you have this woman uncovering all of these bustles of Black people around the red light district and saying, if there's no Black history, who is this? Or uncovering records and saying, but these two people got married, or this person went to jail, or there's this birth certificate, or there's this painting with these three little Black boys. Here's this Black history. So she educated me in a way I never knew I needed to be educated, and I absolutely adored that tour.
Good, I asked you that question. That probably sparked a lot of people right there that wouldn't even thought about what you just said. I got one last one, I'm gonna exit. I got one. Now of the places that you've been, just give me something that you went, someplace that you went to, and after you left, you thought, I missed a lot here. Give me one place that you just like, I got to go back because I missed a lot that I could have learned. And I'll listen off air.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Todd. So this last month I was in Jacksonville, Florida, and I went to Jacksonville as soon as the NAACP ban came out, because I was like, no, we can't just say you can't go to Florida anymore. We're still going to go to Florida for one, but secondly, there's all of these conferences that are still going on that have been 3 years in the making. So instead of saying don't go to Florida, I want to say these are the places where you can feel safe, right? These are the Black-owned businesses that you can give your money to when you do go to Florida. And Jacksonville, oh my gosh, Jacksonville is filled with so much rich Black history and culture, right? I call these people the Jacksonville Giants. Some of them aren't living anymore. Some of them are living, but Jacksonville is a place that people need to get to. There's a Black-owned mall there.
Here we were going to have lunch at Soul Food Bistro, a must when visiting Jacksonville, Florida, when my girl Michelle told me that this was a Black-owned mall. Y'all, flabbergasted isn't even the word. Formerly Normandy Mall, Kingdom Plaza is a coming together of retail merchants and community-centered businesses. In its 15th year, the mall offers family entertainment, fine Southern cuisine, and personal growth resources. Now, one of the things that I loved the most was the Kingpin's Bowling Alley. I grew up in a bowling alley, and I want my own bowling alley, and I plan to build that in 2025. Now, another thing that I loved was the Temples Builder Gym, which also had a state-of-the-art pool, as well as a room for their silver steppers. Now, this is owned and operated by the Potter's House Jacksonville, and Bishop came out to talk to me. He followed me on social media and definitely was taking pictures. And I didn't even get to the food from Soul Food Bistro, but y'all, let me tell you, it was bomb. Now, when you visit the ABC Travel Green Book app, it's definitely in there. So the next time you're in Jacksonville, Florida, pull up.
And that's just a sample of all the great information you'll find when you download the ABC Travel Green Book app. Now more from Marty Lewis from ABC Travel Book.
Something that happened there called Axe Handle Saturday. Like, there's all of this history and it hasn't been amplified. And we're talking in Jacksonville, in Duval County. And I just could not believe it. I stayed there for 5 days. 5 days wasn't enough. There's so many more things that I need to do. There's a Black farm there. There's the Clara White Center. I mean, there's so much stuff in Jacksonville that I want people to learn, that I want people to know, that is so significant to the African-American story today. It's phenomenal. It is truly, truly phenomenal. And it's not just restaurants, it's history. It's history. It's things that you can still physically see today. We're talking Black millionaires, a Black millionaire community that used to be there. I mean, it's crazy. You're talking a Black cemetery that's now a park, that they didn't even acknowledge that they're building a park on top of these Black people. But if you go in a corner, you see a bunch of headstones and you're like, how would you build a park here? You know what I mean? It's just, it was uncovering so much stuff. It really was. It was uncovering so much stuff.
Tell you what, now you're making me feel bad because we were in Jacksonville twice, didn't see any of that. And we've been thinking about a trip to Jacksonville. We just chose Miramar Beach instead. But my next trip is going to be that. Before we go into that, though, let's get my dad on because I'm sure he wants to add something. Then we know we got Mel who's on hold too. Good morning, Dad. You're on with Marty Lewis.
About in 1958, I headed for California in a $300 automobile, but I got this American oil company, or Amoco, that put out a colored American guide to go from Georgia to California. Actually, it didn't go quite to California. It listed places in Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas and Arizona. That was the last stop. And this came from a station, an owner of the station who lived 1 block from where I grew up. And they put this out every year with places where colored Americans could stop. After having lived in Boston for 4 years, I could go anywhere to eat or stay and then come back to Georgia, and was very limited. This was a very valuable device, a folder to take with you to go cross country. And I just wondered if you knew about that American Oil Company folder that they put out.
Yeah, so a lot of people think the Green Book was the only one, but it wasn't. It was the one that's in the longest in terms of publication. So it ran for 30 years, but there were several other guidebooks like Vacation Without Humiliation, like the one put out by the Department of Interior, like the one that you're speaking about now. I know of about 6, but here's the thing, right? And this is something I learned yesterday when going through the Toronto archives, but we did not preserve our stuff. And if we did, and we tried to give it to the archives in cities, depending on who worked at those archives, they are who decided what should be archived and what shouldn't be in terms of what was important and what's not. So here's systematic racism for you guys, because people don't understand how deep it goes. But if you work in the archives in 1960, 1970, 1980, and you do not care about the Black community, and people of the Black community are bringing you things like the guidebook that you're talking about, you're saying, no, this is not important. We don't have any trace of it 60 years later, right? So this is why most people don't know about the book that you're talking about, because even if we did preserve it and we tried to give it to somebody else to preserve it, they did not deem it as this is important. So our history, again, this is lost unless people like you, Mr. Killian, come on here and you call and you say,
Green Book until a few years ago.
See,
I just thought that
exactly.
the American Oil pamphlet just disappeared. And I guess it wasn't necessary at that time. But back to my son, I can just tell you, segregation was not good. You can believe what you think, what you want to think, but this place, they gave out these pamphlets. You ran a service station and a restaurant. The number one item on the menu was a pig ear sandwich. Is that all we wanted? No, but the other places, oldest restaurant in town, we couldn't go there. We couldn't go to wherever else there was. That other people went, we couldn't go. So segregation was not good.
I agree. Yeah.
Hey, we not, and you know what, Pop? Out of all due respect, you know, you my daddy, so I've got to let that. I'm gonna let you have a final word on that piece. And Marty, well, I'm gonna let you respond when we come back. We gotta go pay some bills before I need a travel book to figure out to get to my next job. So let me go pay some bills. When we come back, Dad, I appreciate you calling Mel. I see you out there. I know you got a question
thanks
about.
For listening, but I'd have another 3 hours if you let me. Okay.
All right. Hey, Mel, I see you out there. I know you got some questions about HBCUs. We'll get you back on with Marty Lewis when we come back from the break. 44726-1380. We're talking to Marty Lewis, ABC Travel Green Book author and creator of a travel book app to help you figure out how to break bread with people who look like you. Don't go away. Here's the AutoNsider's News and Talk 1380 WAOK. Now we're back with more from Marty Lewis with ABC Travel Green Book and the app. If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Marty Lewis. She is the author of the ABC Travel Green Book. I'm sitting here holding my copy of it right here in front of me. And she also has this new app, the ABC Travel Green Book app as well, so that when you are traveling, this is just yet another tool that you can take along with you to make sure that you are at the very least experiencing what Black people who've come before you experienced to make that trip possible. Also gives you an opportunity to spend money with and create an economy with people who look like yourself. You go to work, you work hard, we take our dollar. I saw somebody had data not too long ago talking about how long the Black dollar stays in the community. And then they compared it to how long the Asian dollar and the Caucasian dollar and African dollar and Hispanic dollar, all those dollars stay in that community. I was come in and go right back out. Here's a way that we can build some wealth with our own people. So again, we have Marty Lewis, the creator of the app and writer of the book, joining us this morning. So Marty, again, I really appreciate you doing what you do and then agreeing to get up early on a Saturday morning while you're working and traveling, having a great time, taking the time out to talk to us. We really appreciate it. So before we get back to the app and the book, we have a caller, Mel, who's been holding on for a while, and he wants to get in the conversation and talking about HBCUs. Good morning, Mel. You're on with Marty Lewis from ABC Travel Green Book.
Yeah, can you hear me good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to speak at HBU, because your guests are talking about traveling down in Florida. You know, that big governor they have down there.
Don't get me in trouble, Mel.
Huh?
I said, don't get me in trouble. Okay, go ahead.
I ain't gonna get you in trouble. But what I'm finna say, how many HBU schools down towards that area?
Down in Florida?
They're down in Florida, yeah.
Let's see.
Well, reason I'm bringing that up because all of the 5-star players, Black players that go to them white schools down through there,
So you got about
that governor trying to stop everything, like you're just saying that all the history that we have down south, down through there.
Yeah, so you're right, Mel. So there are a lot. I'm looking up. You got Florida. Everybody know FAMU. The Rattlers, the Marching 100. So you got FAMU, Florida Memorial University, Bethune-Cookman.
Bethune.
You got Kaiser University, Edward Waters University, Florida Institute of Technology, the Weber International. So Marty is making a really good point. You don't want to.
That's my point there. We ought to stop. Our kids, the 5-star and going to white schools down there with that racist governor. We'll stop that.
Well,
You're
this
right.
is the thing. Mr. Mayor.
Wouldn't go to Florida if you gave me $2 million.
Hey, hold
But
on,
this is
Mel.
the
Let's
thing.
let Marty talk.
This is the thing. One governor does not mean that everybody in that state feels this way. And let me tell you what the issue really here is in Florida. If you took Duval County alone, the black population in Duval County, there's about 64,000 Black people who did not vote when it came to the governors, right? And we remember Andrew Gilliam, the Black man, was in the race with the other man whose name we don't say. But the difference and how he beat him was 34,000 votes. So if you have 64,000 people in Duval County who are Black who didn't vote, and if they would have voted, they would have voted for Andrew Gilliam, then you would have had him in as governor. So the first thing we need to talk about is Black people voting. The second thing we need to talk about is one person does not speak for the whole state. So yes, he feels that way, but other people don't feel this way. And this is the same thing I asked the people in Jacksonville when I got there. Are you guys worried about what's happening? They said, absolutely not. One monkey don't stop no show. Yeah, he don't want to, you don't have to teach stuff in the classroom, but this is why you go and you take Miss Yoli's Explore Jack's Courts, or this is why you take Kimaya's Black History of Miami tour. He don't have to teach it in actual schools, but guess what? We gonna learn about it a different way. And let me tell you something about HBCUs. For the ones that are private institutions, right? Like Florida Memorial, right? Like Edward Waters, they can teach whatever they want to teach because they are not owned by the government. So they can still teach Black history in schools. Any type of private institution does not have to take Black history out of the schools in Florida because that's not what that vote means. I understand your passion, but we got to find ways around it. And we got to understand that one person does not speak for the whole state. Okay. And also, Mr. Darrell, you could have looked in the ABC Travel Green Book because it lists all the HBCUs in there too. But if y'all want to find it, if y'all want to find all the HBCUs, you can go right into the app and you can look them all up because they're all in there. Also, I'm a graduate of North Carolina A&T that's in Greensboro, North Carolina. But the thing about it is, regardless where you go in America, you're going to find people like their governor. And we know that. But like they said, one monkey don't stop no show. They're not worried about Black people not coming. They're not worried about all our history being lost because there are people there who will teach it. And the app helps list all of those people who will take you on tours throughout these places. So do not be afraid. Do not be upset. There are other ways around it. And one thing about Black people is we gonna find our way.
My dad always said either we'll find a way or we'll make one.
There you go.
And that's one of those things. And we let Mel go because Mel wasn't gonna let you keep talking. He was gonna cut you off. So we went ahead and cut him off. But another really good point to this ABC Travel Green Book app is when I think about that, you brought this point up. I hadn't thought about this before today's show, but if Black people stop traveling to Florida, we're probably the only ones who are frequenting these Black-owned businesses. If we don't go, who's going to support these Black-owned businesses? So we can't cut off our nose despite our face. I understand NAACP, it was great to put the message out. It's great to have us, trying to, pay attention and be more aware. But at the same time now, don't just stop spending your dollar. Be more judicious about how and where you spend your dollar. So we could hold you over to 11:45. That would be great because I do have a couple more things I want to get out of you. I want to talk more about this app. I want to talk more about how to use this app. And then I want to talk about this other elephant in the room. And I don't know how you're going to feel about this. We haven't talked about it before, so I'm going to be catching you blindsided. But I want to talk about these Black businesses. Because a lot of times, Marty, I try to do business with Black folk here in Atlanta. For example, I broke my ankle not too long ago. And I'm a person, I like doing my own yard work. So I went investigating, trying to find a Black landscaper company to take care of my lawn while I'm out. And I specifically went after Black-owned landscape business. I had 2 to actually come out to give me quotes. The other 5 or 6 didn't even respond to my request. The one guy that came out to give me a quote didn't show up to do my yard the day he was supposed to do it. I had to text him 2 or 3 times, call him about it. 7 or 8 hours later in the day, he didn't even call me back. He sent me a text and told me he had a flat tire on his trailer, which didn't allow him to come over and do my job. While I had a bad taste in my mouth about that, Marty, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna give this guy one more chance. I was like, okay, well, let me know when you can make it by tomorrow. This was in the end of May. I haven't heard from him to this day. Now, I did find another young brother, African-American, come out and do it. He's been coming every week. He's like clockwork. He does a great job. But it's for me to have to go through 7 to 8 to 10 people to try to find somebody to do it right. Just because you got a Black business, don't mean I'm gonna give you all my money. It means I'm gonna give you a chance, but it don't mean I'm gonna give you all of my money just because you Black owned. That'll get me in the door, but now you gotta keep me in the door. So I'm gonna give you a minute to marinate on that a little bit. We're gonna go get this news in, pay some bills, then we come back. I wanna know about, I know you got like a little rating system on your app so that we can go in and share our pictures, photos, and experiences. So all you Black owned businesses who gonna be listed on this ABC Travel Green Book app, make sure you get your stuff together because Marty is gonna hold you accountable. You ain't gonna have her looking bad out here on her app. People gonna know what you did, what you're supposed to do or not. So we're gonna talk about that when we come back from the break. It's Marty Lewis. She is the author of the ABC Travel Green Book, the creator and curator of the ABC Travel Green Book app, so you can take it along with you, helping you figure out how to spend money and keep your dollar in the Black community. Don't go away. We'll have more with Marty after the break. It's the Auto Insiders News and Talk, 1380 WAOK. Before the break, I talked about my own experiences and I talked about, some challenges that I have with supporting any business. I don't care if it's Black owned, green owned, orange owned. When I'm spending my hard-earned money, my money hard to come by. And when I go, I expect great service. And I noticed, Simone pointed out, on your app, there's a way for us to take pictures, videos, and talk about places that we went. Tell us about that part of the app and why you included that.
Yeah, the review system is extremely important. And like you said, it doesn't matter what kind of business or establishment you are, patronizing. We need to know what your experience was. So yes, if you go to a Black-owned restaurant and it was crazy and you didn't like your service and you didn't like your food, you need to put that in the app because other people want to know what's really going on. I tell people all the time, as a community, the only way we're going to get better is if we make each other better, right? So if something happened that you didn't like, then you need to either go directly to that business owner and tell them, right? Like, I didn't enjoy this, or, I didn't appreciate this, so that they can do better. I reposted a reel about fine dining or upscale Black-owned restaurants in DC that a guy named Chima Eats on Instagram that he posted. And so many people hated on this one restaurant. And it's fine. You can say what you want to say. You can do your own opinion. But while you were in that restaurant, did you tell the people that you didn't like their service? So it's like, yes, you can have your opinions and they are welcomed and valued on the ABC Travel Green Book app. But also, if you care enough about this business thriving or doing better, go straight to the source and tell them, I did not appreciate this. I did not like this, and this, and this. And then, then you can help somebody get better. But that review system, we have 3 ways to review. You can give it a star rating. You can physically type words, or you can upload photos. And we did it that way because we understand maybe you gave somebody 3 stars, right? Even though you loved the food, but you didn't like the service, or you loved the service, but you didn't like the food, or, something specific happened. But that's why we give you so many different ways to actually review the business. And that is one of the most important parts of the app. Like, please review this business. Let other Black travelers know, or people using the app, or people who want to patronize Black businesses, what your experience was here. So it's extremely important.
So you just mentioned, you said, and you were very specific. It was, I could see it in your mouth. You were calculated when you said this. People who want to patronize Black-owned businesses. One of the things that Simone and I talked about was, how has this app been received? What kind of feedback are you getting? And are you getting any others downloading this app and commenting and following along?
Yeah, I mean, so because I've been in the travel space, just speaking about diversity, equity, and inclusion for probably the past 7 years, I've really established my name within the travel space. So all of my colleagues, the majority of them are not Black. There's not a lot of Black people in the travel space who do what I do. So when I released this app, it went out to all of their networks also. And people came from far and wide across 176 countries to download this app. So my first month, I said, I'd be great if I get 2,000 downloads. I surpassed that. I got 5,000 downloads. The app's only been out for a month and 6 days now, right? So I got 5,000 downloads. So I know that it's not just me and my network, it's my network and their network as well. So many people, no matter what I put out into the industry, it don't matter if it's an article, it don't matter if it's an app, it don't matter if it's a book, it doesn't matter if it's a Nat Geo show. They bang with me so tough that their support is gonna surpass any expectation. So yes, there's Black people who have it. There's also white people who have it. There's Mexican people who have it. There's Nordic people from Norway who have it. You know, I sit on the board for a cruise company called Hurtigruten, and they are out of Norway. And last week or the week before, I was in Oslo presenting to them on, you know, how to speak to the Black cruisers, so the, you know, more Black people get on their cruises. And they all downloaded the app. And not only did they all download the app, while I was on a cruise stop and through Norway, I found a Black-owned business and I added it to the app through the recommended business. And now they're doing work directly with that business to make sure they drive more people to that Black-owned business, because it's probably the only one, you know what I mean, in that region of Norway. But this is how things happen for me. And I'm always grateful. I always tell God, like, you be showing out. But the response has been overwhelming per usual. I say that every time I put out anything, the response is overwhelming because people believe in me and what my mission is. And I'm so, so grateful for that. So everybody has the app. And like I say, it is an app for Black travelers. However, if other travelers want to use it so that they can be an ally like they say they are, so they can put their money where their mouth is, I am so appreciative to have that business as well.
And you brought up something that that I wasn't certain of, but I assumed, but I'm glad you brought it up. So I downloaded the app today. This week, Simone downloaded the app. So when I go on my trip, so we're going to the beach in a couple weeks. If I find a Black-owned establishment, I don't care if it's a museum, gas station, restaurant, whatever I find in that town, there's a way for me to put that on the app so that you will know about it?
Absolutely. So if there's something that we miss, because there are tons of Black-owned businesses that we miss, like I said, we only have about 40,000 listings, but that's throughout the world, right? We know there's more than 40,000 Black-owned businesses in the world. But if there's something that we miss, right on that search screen, which is like the second screen, there's a button that says recommend a business. You press that, ask you the business name, the number, the address, the website if you have it, if you want to upload a picture, and you just hit submit. Now, every day, I go on and I look to see what people have been recommended. I go and I follow up on the back end and make sure it is a Black-owned establishment, and I accept it. So just before I got on here, there was 13 things that people recommended yesterday. So I went through them all. Yep, it's Black-owned. Yep, it's Black-owned. Yep, it's Black-owned. But the reason why I love that recommend a business feature is because there are so many Black-owned businesses in places that we didn't know. The other day, somebody put a Cuban restaurant that was in Florence, Italy. And when people talk about Black people, and listen, no Black people here. Well, there's this Cuban restaurant called El Sobre that is in Florence, Italy. So the next time somebody goes to Italy or Florence, y'all need to go eat here. You know what I mean? I mean, Afro-Cuban, you can see it in the walls, you can see it in the chef, you can see. So I'm just like, I would have never known that, because I can't be everywhere, all the time, all at once, right? I can only be where I am. But yes, and I find myself recommending businesses all the time too, because even, you know, like I said, I'm in Toronto right now. I definitely have like 60 or 70 listings here, but there's so much. Toronto is a huge population of West Indian people. You're talking Jamaican, Bayesian, Trinidadian, everybody lives here. And there's so many places that I miss. I went into a beauty supply yesterday. I looked on there, I said, are they in the app? Yes, they were in the app. But the restaurant that was 2 doors down wasn't an app. So I do right then and there, I added it. And then when I got back home, I could get back on it and accepted it. So please, like, if there's anything you don't see in the app, definitely recommend the business. It just makes everybody better.
So our local people here in Atlanta who may have a Black-owned business that's not on this app, they can go in today after listening to the show. They can download the ABC Travel Green Book app. Mm-hmm. When they go in, set up their own profile, put in things about themselves where they are, they then can recommend their own business. You'll go in on the back end, look at it. If they're legit, then you will have it posted to the app.
Yep. And that's if they're not already in there. Because, Atlanta is an easy place to find Black-owned businesses because Atlanta is majority Black. But if you're not in there, definitely add yourself. If your mama ain't in there and she lives in Florida, add her. If your granny ain't in there and she live in Arkansas, Pine Bluff, add her. You know what I mean? Add the Black-owned businesses. But through the search feature, you can search things by location or the actual name. So let's say you're called Tootsie's. You can put in Tootsie's and you'll see all the listings under anything that's Tootsie's. If your Tootsie's not in there, add it to the app. So yeah. Or you can go in there and you can type in Toronto. All the listings that I have in Toronto will come up. You can go over there and you can type in Pakistan or Jakarta. All the listings in Jakarta will come up. Same thing with South Korea. Same thing with Colombia. Same thing with Ecuador. They're all in there.
So I want to say to all my guests, because this is a automotive show and we talk about all things automotive, one of the biggest pieces I think about is traveling by car. Having been my parents always took us on road trips. My dad said he used to drive to California before I was born. There's so much you can learn, not only about Black folk, but indigenous people, other things along the route. So I think we ought to get back to getting in the car, taking some of these short 3-4 hour trips, or taking some longer week-long, 2-week-long vacation and exploring right here in the United States by car. And so we can do that. You download this app, you follow Marty. Before we let you go, tell them again how to follow you on social media, how to get to your website, how to get this app where they can find it. And if the people who still want this book, they want the physical copy, tell them how they can get their hands on this book too.
Yep. So just to let you guys know, amongst African Americans, travel by car is still the number one way that we are traveling. So we know it's still immensely important. And we know we're going up and down the highways and byways in America. So make sure you definitely download the app so you know where you can stop. If you're in Montana, if you're in Colorado, you can find the book, the ABC Travel Green Book, either on barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. You can find it in some Black-owned bookstores as well. The ABC Travel Green Book app is in the Google Play Store as well as the Apple Store. You can find me on social media at Marty_San Diego or at ABC Travel Green Book. My website is it's abctravelgreenbook.com or abctravelnetwork.com. There is a children's book out that teaches little kids how to find Black-owned communities throughout the world. That's called Cheyenne and the ABC Travel Green Book. That's also on Amazon. So yeah, there are multiple ways to find me. Connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with me on Instagram, Facebook. I love talking to people. Email me, sign up for newsletters, and I can't wait to see what questions anybody might have after this. But thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
I love it, Marty. Thank you for being here. And you brought up another really good point, and I don't know if you thought about it, but parents, you sending your kids off to school, college next year, they move into a town, download this ABC Travel Green Book, have them put it on their phones so that when they get to these, some of our kids go to these PWCs in these towns where not a lot of people look like us, give them a place and they can go and find businesses and people that look like them. They can go get resources when they go off to college. So thinking about that kid book, you might want to put together a college book too for these kids, college town, what to do. Give me a little credit on that when you put it out.
Will do.
We appreciate you. It's Marty Lewis, ABC Travel Green Book. Y'all go look her up, follow her. I will put it all on our social media, WAOK, AutoNsider. We'll have everything else, everybody can find it. Thank you. The next time you release something, please reach out to Simone. Let us know again. We'd love to have you back and to keep our audience involved and in the know.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Simone. Have a good one.
Thank you, Marty. Hey, guys, let's go pay a couple more bills. When we come back, we'll wrap up today's show, and I will give you my one for the road.